Welcome to the NFL Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com, now lineups.com. Nate and Josh coming back to you guys here looking at the DraftKings Pick6 options for week 2 in the NFL. So we're going to be going through DraftKings Pick6. If you're not familiar, you're going to go ahead and build yourselves a few little parlays going over or under using those player props. So we're going to go through some of that in the show as well so you can see what we're talking about and make some of those picks for you. But first, do need to let you know that if you are not yet a customer on DraftKings Pick6, you can get this sweet deal where you play $5 and get $50 in bonus picks. So our partners here at DraftKings Pick6 have this deal for you for the new customers only, like we said. But when you do play that $5, get 50 in bonus picks, and you can keep building your slips that way. Take your shot at some big payouts. Make sure you check out the link in the description of the video to sign up and start playing. If you do have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Getting into what we've got here for week 1, Nate, you want to jump into your first look here using that pick 6.
Yeah, and I'm starting off with a volume play here. Chris Olave, it's not an ideal matchup against the Niners. It is ideal that the Saints are at home, and the fact that they're just going to absolutely force feed their wide receiver one. That's been Kellen Moore's MO really at every stop. So I think we'll continue to see that. As they try to, Spencer Rattler fed him 13 targets in week 1, right? So 52.5 yards is not a ton if you're going to get 13 targets. Like I said, San Francisco pretty good in coverage, but I mean his matchup, Renardo Green, was on Dusty Cooper Cup last week and gave up still 19 yards per reception. And Olave, I think, felt like he should have had a bigger game than he did, but he felt like he was getting tugged on a lot by those Cardinals cornerbacks. They did a pretty good job limiting his big plays, still wound up going over this and had 97 air yards. New Orleans dropped back the second most times of any team. And so that's another Kellen Moore MO thing, is just like, yeah, I guess we're not going to run the ball with the Kamara at all. We're going to let Spencer Rattler sling that thing. And like I said, we're indoors, where Olave in his full games last year before he got knocked out basically with concussions, 74.5 yards per game on 5.5 receptions. So good ADOT, getting down the field. And even a good pass defense last week. JSN absolutely roasted them. And honestly, Olave is a dude just like that. The biggest concern is just, will he get knocked out with a concussion at some point during the season? But I think we can take him week to week.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, if he's going to be out there and healthy, then he's going to be a pretty good look, and the matchup should be decent for him. We were talking about this matchup before as well when we're looking at some early stuff, and I know some of the other guys on the channel were talking about this game as well as a potential good game for this Saints offense at home that showed a little bit more than maybe we expected of it going into week 1. So first look for myself, Nate, another wide receiver in a divisional game here. We got Detroit and the Bears, and I'm going with Amon-ra St. Brown, 65.5 receiving yards to the over on that one. Love the matchup for him to start, right? The Bears, obviously a better pass defense than rush defense last season. Expect some of that stuff to sort of trickle into this season as well, but especially in man coverage. They ran man at a rate of 70% in the opener against the Vikes, 6th worst in EPA in man coverage last week, 4th worst pressure rate. So, and that was the case last season too. Not very good at getting those pressures on the quarterback, which either way, honestly, for Amon-Ra, he's going to be running a ton of drag, a ton of, sort of shorter routes at times and crossing routes that are really going to be hard to stay with him in man, which is why he's so good at beating man coverage. The nickel, Nick McLeod too, for the Bears, he's going to be seeing a ton of Amon-Ra, who loves getting into that slot and doing his thing from there. He had a 51.1 coverage rating last year, and really don't know if he's going to have it this year, especially against Amon-Ra once again. The situation at home here, we're talking about Amon-Ra in the last, since 2023, 92 yards per game at home. When you're looking at the divisional games, last 6 at home since 2023, 85 yards per game. So really like him to get back up closer to 80. This should probably be about 79.5. And honestly, I love this angle because I was already considering it in week 1. I was like, man, it feels like Amon-Ra usually starts pretty slow. And I remember that from having him in fantasy multiple years in a row and going, why does it take till week 2 or 3 for this man to get going for whatever reason? Last season, it was the same thing. 13 yards on 3 receptions in the opener. Next week goes versus Tampa Bay, 11 receptions, 119 yards. Expect some of that to happen once again. And for new OC Morton over there to start feeding these guys a little bit further downfield. When you look at guys like Jahmyr Gibbs, 10 receptions, 31 yards. Amon-Ra, similarly bad numbers. Going to expect that to be a turnaround this week.
Yeah, I mean, and he's only at 63 actually, where I got it at open here. It's still there at pick 6. So that is sometimes the advantage you get, is that they will just kind of leave those opening lines up. Meanwhile, you see on like a live sports book, yeah, it just continues to rise as people are like, yeah, I'm taking that bounce back with Amon-Ra. And yeah, to your point, the only thing that scares me is like, does Ben Johnson know all their tricks? Does he know exactly how he wants to get open? But he ain't out there playing, and the Bears, they were bad in those areas. So like
Exactly. Yeah.
personnel's the Jimmies and the Joes gonna out X's and O's at some point. Sometimes when you bet a guy, you really get a feel for just how lucky you're getting that he's actually in the game, and that's how I felt with the Steelers last week. Rodgers, kind of a misleading line of 244 and 4 touchdowns, and just everything you saw with the eye test. And people being like, Aaron Rodgers is back. I was just like, absolutely not. He looked terrible. He looked absolutely overwhelmed by the athleticism of these people 10 and 15 years younger than him. And the Steelers' offensive line is bad. Like left tackle Broderick Jones, 47 PFF grade, gave up 3 of the 4 sacks personally. And now they get the Seahawks coming to town. And Boye Mafe just ate up Trent Williams. Trent Williams tapped out of the game because he was like, I don't know if I'm young enough for this thing. So Aaron Rodgers is going to be under pressure. Like they just held the Seahawks just put Purdy under his highest pressure rate of his career. And some of the dink and dime stuff that Rodgers actually got his production off. Like shout out to Ben Solak and the Athletic. They kind of had these numbers out there. He had the 3rd lowest air yards per completion, yet the 3rd highest explosive rate. So just those quick dump offs, DK Metcalf doing it all after the catch. And 8 of his 9 third down throws, Rodgers, were short of the sticks. He also took 2 sacks on 3rd down. Steelers were lucky to just be out there on the field continually. The Seahawks on the other side be pretty run heavy. Their total, the total is once again the lowest of the week. I don't expect another random, Steelers shootout like we saw last week. And I mean, in their outdoor road games under McDonald last year, this is kind of baffling. They gave up 146, 125, 169, and 76 passing yards.
Wow.
The Seahawks playing outdoors. They got smoked in domes by Goff and Stafford, but when they played somebody outdoors on the road, no travel issues. McDonald brought the heat.
Yeah, I remember that Seahawks defense last year, so befuddling in some ways. But this really, this comes down to like, I don't know, I might not be in a rush to like fade his touchdowns, but I think the yards are something that you can't really rely upon. He'll find some precision stuff if they get close enough, right, to the red zone and inside of it. That the touchdowns are something I'd be staying away from as a fade. The yards I like, and the game script. Look, I mean, that Steelers defense, we still expect it to be, right, a top 5 defense. We don't expect everybody to be able to get 200-plus rushing yards on this defense consistently, and we certainly expect the Seahawks to try to grind it out. We saw how much they're going to be running the ball outside of pretty much only throwing it to JSN. So I'm with you on that one here. I'm going to go to my second pick and talk about Breece Lightning, man. We were both debating the attempts or the yards for him as the yards continue to creep up. But I think 60-plus for Breece is going to be something that we can continue to feel pretty good about this season if the split stays the way that it did. Right now, look, he had a very nice positive EPA when he was in there. He had a 54% success rate on his rushes. Braylon Edwards did not have a positive success rate on his rushes, and as a result, we saw Braylon Allen come in and really just not show much on the rush and on the ground. And that's what we talked about coming into the season is Braylon Allen is a scary good athlete. He is not the running back that Breece Hall is. He's not the guy who's finding the right cuts, finding the right vision. Breece Hall is an absolute maniac doing that. We've got to continue to expect him to have the snap count that he did. He outsnapped Allen 37-20. Still haven't seen the Rook, by the way, come in and take any of their snaps, and I don't think he'll be battling them for snaps for a while this season, if at all. But maybe it was his snaps are down a little bit from last year in week 1, but the positive output that he had essentially is what we're talking about. And if you look at the matchup specifically, 9 yards per carry versus stacked fronts last week, there was about 21% rate that he saw a stacked front. He got the ball versus a regular base front about more than half the time. So it's just in any situation, they want him to be the runner. And I think that's going to continue to be the case if you see that split between his success and Allen's success as backup continue to have a large disparity.
Yeah, and you see, I mean, the rushing total isn't up yet on pick 6 either, but you have these multipliers now where if he gets a tutty, it actually gets you more points towards towards that pick six. So if there's tiebreakers, et cetera. So, I mean, yeah, I quickly corrected Breece Hall, after coming off of the ACL last year, didn't look good. Obviously, bad coaching situation. After week one, I put him 9th on our lineups rankings for RBs in the league, just as far as like pure talent. Like this, he was that dude 2 years ago. Did it to the Bills on opening night, I believe, like a 90-yard rushing touchdown, and that Bills run defense looked like doo-doo. It's not just the fact
to interrupt, he had one called back. He had a 50-yard touchdown, and he had like a 55-yarder called back. So yeah, he crushed him to open the season.
Yeah, a couple years ago, right? I mean, it looks like he's back to form now.
Yep.
Last pick for me, Trey McBride, and it's an SGP look that you could go 50 plus yards and 5 receptions, I think, and still be at plus money. It's just the idea that he's a volume guy. I mean, his core prop and what he's at here on pick 6 is 62.5, which climbed up a little bit. I seen it 59.5, 60.5. So his core prop's around 60, but I think he's not going to get there without the 5 receptions. That kind of outlier has happened once or twice actually against the Jets last year. Otherwise, he's consistently getting there on volume, and he gets a lot of volume, right? I mean, out of tight ends, he has had the highest target share in week 1, highest route percentage, 97% route percentage, 43% first reads. You look at he's hit 60 plus yards in 10 of his last 13 at home and 5 plus receptions in 9 of those. And there's actually some weird home road splits going on where his catch rate is 10% lower at home. So he's actually averaged 16 yards per game fewer last year at home in Arizona. And I think that's just one of those outliers you look at and you're just like, that's just going to correct, especially when you play a really, really, really bad defense. Panthers' worst pressure rate in the league in week 1, played zone at a high rate, and their outside linebacker, Patrick Jones, who would probably be covering him in man, is questionable. They gave up the second most points per game to tight ends last year. And of course, they can't stop the run. And part of the look here is when you can't stop the run, you also give up a lot of play action passes to the tight end. And that's where McBride's going to eat. Said they're vulnerable on the interior in particular. So like Kyler Murray to be able to actually get those passes off because he's not good on the perimeter and just get the ball to Trey.
Yeah. Yeah. Like it for exactly what you said. If you hadn't mentioned it, I was going to say Carolina's so bad at stopping the run that I do think a couple of things. One, that leads to what you're saying. They're going to have to sell out with those linebackers and everybody standing in the middle of the field. And they're just going to have to try to get an all hands on deck sort of scenario to stop that run. I think Trey Benson is also a potentially good look backup running back for the Cards. Like if he's getting 8 to 10 carries, you're probably going to get some value on his rush yards. Not up yet on pick 6 as a backup for a Sunday game, but we're recording this early enough that like obviously he's going to have some stuff here in the next couple of days and had some really good runs. Obviously outgained Connor last week thanks to a big run. Other than that, wasn't great, but I think the opportunities will be there in what should be another relatively easy win for the Cardinals, who didn't have that much ease in their win last week. But closing it out here, let me get some receptions for an RB, and that is Travis Etienne, now the clear-cut lead back in Jacksonville, as Tank Bigsby is no longer around. He is now in the backfield with Saquon Barkley back out there in Philadelphia, who just got better at running the ball. That's terrifying. But for the Jags and Etienne, the receptions and the receiving yards here are something that I think we like a lot in addition to, the rushing is probably there for him. But the stuff here is going to look good in terms of his percentage and participation in the pass game and against a team like Cincinnati, who struggles to stop the run in general and had been selling out in that sense, right? And we saw Cincinnati in week 1 really prioritize stopping the run, limited Cleveland to 49 yards. Granted, Cleveland's run game is going to be just boo-boo this season, so it's not too much to take away, but at least it showed improvement from last year where Cincinnati was getting carved up for about 230 a game for a little while there to start last year. So that all said, like if they are selling out that way, that does leave Etienne a little bit more room to run those routes. He had 61% of the snaps last week, 54% route rate, which led all running backs. He ran 32 routes last week, more than guys like Eckler and other guys you expect to be heavily involved in the pass game. So that's really, really impressive. And I don't know why that would go down when he's clearly the best guy still. Already was with Tank there, still is with Tank not there. Just means he's got a lot more third downs and first and second downs coming his way now that won't be vultured by Tank there. The PFF projection for him is about 17 receiving yards this week. I do think a lot of the models have him definitely going over this at about like in a 2.5 receptions, close to even money is another look, because I do think he'll be at the requisite about 5-6 yards per catch that we expect from him. And just talking about Cincinnati and the way that they're selling out to stop the run, they gave up 8 receptions last week in the opener to Samson under their new defensive coordinator, Al Golden. And they could be seeing a lot more 4-2 nickel that they run against these Jacksonville receivers, which will leave them with some high safeties, not guys creeping up on the line to fill that space in the middle of the field where you expect Etienne to be running some routes. So love him on the receiving yards, maybe a little ladder up to 20, even if you're playing this on a regular book.
Yeah, it's crazy that he was highest among RBs and routes in a game that they just kind of won handily, right? I mean, it's like he's not at all game script where you'd expect them to be throwing, and now you face Cincy in a bounce back spot that with the highest projected total of the week, at least of Sunday. So it's definitely a good situation, and you got Liam Cohen calling these plays, which, you know, a lot of times, like even Rachaad White, who was not their primary back, would just suddenly break these really long pass plays last year. A lot of that is just designed from Liam Cohen. So I think we'll see more of that and more T-Law going for his favorite little running back target there.
Yeah, right. How many times we see Rachaad White run like a 10-yard out route, so he's 5 yards down the field from the backfield and just turn around and just get it right on the little button hook. So you can expect some of that for Etienne, I would imagine. But that is all the time we have for you in this one. Definitely make sure to go ahead and subscribe to the channel here on Lineups. We'll be coming back to you guys each and every week. Got plenty of other content coming from Matt Brown and the crew. So you're going to want to check all that stuff out. But we will be back with you next week. So until then, happy betting.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. CT. 18 plus, 19 plus, Alabama, Nebraska. 21 plus, Arizona, Massachusetts, Virginia. Valid only where Pick6 operates. cdkng.co/Pick6 states. Void in New York, Ontario, and where prohibited. Eligibility restrictions apply. 1 per new DraftKings customer. $5 plus first pick set to receive max. $50 issued as non-withdrawable bonus picks that expire in 14 days, 336 hours. Ends October 13th, 2025 at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time. Terms: pick6.draftkings.com/promos. Sponsored by DraftKings.